Many tourists and car travelers have experienced creepy occurrences when driving on nighttime roads. From sudden animals crossing the roadway in front of cars, to mysterious eyes shining through the trees. The seemingly nightmarish atmosphere on these roads can make drivers feel a sense of unease that can turn into a dangerous fear. Be warned, the following stories I am about to share with you are true events and may be disturbing to some viewers. Welcome back. Dark recaps here. Here are 5 creepiest road trip stories to make you watch out when you're on your next journey. Before we continue, if you end up enjoying this video, please don't forget to drop a like and consider subscribing for more content like this. Otherwise, feel free to browse through some of the other videos on my channel. Let's begin. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. The first story is about a young man that has gotten into a fight with his girlfriend. To clear his mind, he decides that it is a good idea to head out and drive to Kentucky. When he reached Kentucky, he noticed something very strange. Quote, "One night 3 years ago, I got into a fight with my girlfriend at the time. In my rage, I stormed out of her house, got in my truck, and just drove. I hopped on the interstate and drove. About an hour later, I was in Nashville, but I was still pissed, so I decided to keep driving. I made it my goal to reach Kentucky and turn around. I had never been to Kentucky before, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. I reached Kentucky about 2:30 in the morning, having left my town a little after 12:30. I grabbed a Coke and a biscuit from the first McDonald's and headed back to Alabama. As I'm heading back, I realize I'm running low on gas, right as I get to Nashville. So I pull off Interstate 65, go down the off-ramp and hit a light. I make a left and hit another light. Now here's where it gets weird. As I pull up to this light, I notice something strange. The only car on the road is stopped at the green light to the right. Weird, I thought, but hey, it's after 3 at this point, the person could be tired. Once I reach the red light, however, the car rolls forward through the light and under the overpass for the interstate. Then I see their brakes light up and their headlights go out. They stopped under the overpass, and my heart started to race. I was sitting in the turn lane waiting for the light. The gas station was right past the overpass, and there they were, waiting for me. I was freaking out. I watched my light turn green, then back to red. I was waiting to see if they would move, but they didn't. Finally, when the light switched to green again, I flicked on my high beams and crept through the intersection, trying to make out their faces, but I couldn't. Then lo and behold, as soon as I passed them, their headlights turned on and they started moving again. At this point, I'm scared to bits, staring at the headlights in my rear view instead of the road, as I make it a couple hundred feet to the gas station. Thankfully, when I pull in the gas station, the first thing I noticed is the cop car parked out front. So I park at the pump, and as I'm getting out, I watch the car pull in the station and park. I start pumping, and as I'm doing so, I watch a man exit the vehicle and start to walk inside. The whole time, from the second his head pops out of the car to when he makes it inside the store, he is staring at me, smiling like that shell-shocked soldier, shaking his head left to right. He walks into the store and gets in line right behind the cop. Now maybe I've watched too many movies, but the whole time he was standing there, I thought he was going to kill that cop. Thankfully, he did not. Once I had enough gas to get home, I stopped pumping, jumped in my car, and double-checked my phone for directions back to the interstate. As I was leaving the gas station, though, I noticed the man leave his place in line and run out of the store. That's when I panicked. I hit the gas, ran the red light at the overpass, ran another red light, and got back on the interstate. I then went about 85 to 90 miles per hour the whole way home, constantly checking my rear view. Still one of the creepiest things to happen to me. And it reiterated to me what the detective told all the incoming freshmen at orientation, Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. End quote. A flat tire in the middle of nowhere. For this second story, this Redditor tells us his creepy experience on his trip to Wyoming. He was traveling in the pitch dark of the night before he got a flat tire on a dirt road and had to change it. Imagining yourself in a situation like this can be overwhelming even from the comfort of your room. Quote, I was driving alone from eastern Colorado to Wyoming in the middle of the night on a dirt road. It was the type of darkness that most people never get to experience. Like being in the middle of the ocean. No cities or even small towns for hundreds of miles in every direction. Once I hit the border of Wyoming, the road became pavement. After about half an hour, I hear this loud bang and my car pulls hard to the middle of the road. I got a flat tire. I pull over and get out, and it's just quiet as can be. So dark, there was not a single light of any kind for hundreds of miles except my dome and headlights. I start changing the tire by myself, feeling really uneasy about being alone in the middle of nowhere. So I get the tools and the spare out of the trunk and start changing the flat as fast as I can. For some reason, I'm trying to be quiet because it feels like every little sound I make is incredibly loud. I even turn my music off. I'm crouched down finishing up, tightening the lug nuts on the spare, when I hear from right behind me. Need any help with that? In a man's voice. I spin around and stand up fast as F, and no one is there. I look across the street in the other lane and no one is there. I grab the tire iron and start yelling. Who's there? Who's up there? Dead silence. I mean, I could hear my heart beating. I could barely see the other side of the road because of the darkness, but I knew that there was nothing anywhere around me but dirt and sagebrush. I spin those lug nuts on, crank them tight, spin the jack down. The whole time I have that feeling someone is right behind me. I threw all the tools in the trunk with the flat and could not jump back in my car fast enough. I felt like someone was going to stop me from closing the door when I slammed it shut. I sped home to Wyoming, freaked the F out the whole time, checking my back seat over and over again. End quote. Followed in Texas. This third person talks about how he was being followed by an unknown vehicle. He was making his way to the hotel with his wife before he noticed headlights in his rear view. The story is chilling. Quote, so I was driving through Killeen, Texas at about 2 a.m. after a coming home thing and was heading back to my hotel with my wife. I take the exit and after a quick look back I see no vehicles, so I start to merge over because the hotel entrance is almost right after the off-ramp and there's not much wiggle room. As I start to come over, I suddenly get flashed by headlights and hear this dickwad's horn about 50 foot behind me, so it's not like I was actually going to hit them. So I stop merging and keep going straight, accelerating a bit to get ahead of this car more and take a more roundabout way to get to the hotel. I notice that this car is now tailing me very closely. I can only make out two figures and one is reaching into the back seat. Pulls something long and thin out of the back, and now I decide to make sure this dude is actually following me. Blinker shows left, turn right. He copied. Have you ever seen Burn Notice? Yes, some of those little tips actually work. Then I did some other borderline stupid, but legal, things like signaling a good half-mile ahead of my next turn, which wasn't actually planned, then turning it off and going the other way. Eventually I say F it and gun it back onto the highway and he follows, so I get right back off and cut my lights going into a crowded parking lot, and just like you see in the movies and say, how the F didn't they see them? They rolled past us looking everywhere. After about 2 minutes I started the car and left, never to see a trace of the car again. It was a bit scary, but I had to stay calm so my wife didn't know what was really going on. I told her I was just trying to stay out of the way of a drunk driver and let her know what was up when I cut out the lights. She was none too pleased, but sure that I had lost them. I wasn't, and was paranoid for the next week. End quote. Real life can be scarier than any movie. In this fourth story, the author talks about how he came across two bodies as he drove during the night. The story is one of the creepiest I have read so far. Quote, I was driving a shortcut from 29 Palms, California to Albuquerque, New Mexico. 29 Palms is located in the desolate high desert east of LA. The shortcut was all two-lane road through total nothingness, except for passing through Amboy, California. Amboy is a nearly abandoned town nearly as far below sea level as Death Valley, with a dormant volcano and lava field on one side and a salt flat on the other. It was also, at the time, a hotspot for satanic group activity. So I was driving by myself in the afternoon. I stopped in Amboy and snapped a picture of the city sign, just to prove I was there to friends who dared me to take that route to I-40. I got back in my car and proceeded to drive up into the mountain range between Amboy and I-40. Once I reached the top, I am driving north through a canyon with high grass on both sides of the road. Up ahead, I see some stuff in the middle of the road. As I approach, I slow down to see a red Pontiac Fiero stopped sideways across both lanes, a suitcase open with clothes scattered everywhere, and two bodies lying face down in the road, a man and a woman. I stop 100 feet or so away, and the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. Being a Marine, I reach under the seat and pull out a 9mm pistol and chamber a round. Something seemed very wrong. It looked too perfect, as if it were staged. An ambush. Was I being paranoid? Something was just wrong. Getting out of the car seemed unthinkable. It was a horror movie move. As I scanned the road, I saw a line I could drive. Past the guy in the road on his left, swerve to the right side of the woman, behind the Fiero, and I'd be on the other side. I dropped it into first gear, punched it, and drove the line I planned. I passed the back of the Fiero without hitting it or either of the bodies in the road. I continued forward a couple 100 feet and slowed down so I could breathe and let my heart slow down. As I looked up into the rearview mirror, I saw that the two bodies had gotten up to their knees, and 20 or so people emerged from the tall grass on either side of the road, by the car and bodies. At that moment, my right foot smashed the gas pedal to the floor and did not let up until I had to slow down for the I-40 East on-ramp. I will never know what would have happened to me had I gotten out of the car to check on the bodies or stopped my car closer to them. Somehow I do not think it would have been good. Sometimes real life can be scarier than a movie. End quote. Don't sleep by the side of the road. Lastly, this person was making his way home late at night after a family reunion. As he drove, in the story he talks about how tired he suddenly started to feel. What followed next was terrifying. Quote, about 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see a lot in movies. Anyway, I had been driving about 45 minutes, and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired, out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass, behind some bushes, to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock, 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40. This time it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now, at the time, I thought it was the damn hook killer, you know, the one that scratched that couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. F that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a FING car, parked off to the side of the road with the driver's side door opened. I slowed down just to look to see if anyone was in there. There wasn't. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden, this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, Hey you, get the F out of your car. Now. I noped the F out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story? Don't sleep on the side of a deserted road. End quote. Have you ever experienced a scary encounter on your road trip? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed your time here. Please consider leaving a like on this video. If you're hungry for more content like this, subscribe to me. Dark Recaps. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.